idea is that we have to dispose all animal carcasses in a manner that protects humans, animals, and our environment. It has to be done in a very biosecure manner, contained in a way that it destroys most pathogens, and it has to be efficient and, when possible, cost-effective. And most importantly, it has to be done by people who are capable, have the technical know-how, and are competent. And then, of course, the idea is also to avoid the public nuisance. Sometimes, unfortunately, you do come across this type of a gruesome scene where somewhere in the back 40 you see cattle are just left out there, and this is a complete disregard to the environment. We're looking at basically what I call the vulture and vermin restaurant.
Different disposal options. There's alkaline digestion. Alkaline digestion is not a very common option. There are a few alkaline digesters, chemical digesters in the country. They're used for severe disease issues. If there were a BSE outbreak, mad cow, chronic wasting disease, they would probably go to an alkaline digester. But there aren't a lot of those around. So some people are familiar with manure digesters, and there's been thought about putting cows and mortality in manure digesters, but it really hasn't been tested, and I'm not certain that it's a really good idea. It would probably cause problems. Rendering is a very old entity. They've been around for more than 100 years, and a lot of things have occurred to reduce the amount of markets that they have available to sell the material that they used to get from us. Hides, restrictions about feeding bovine flesh to bovine, specified risk materials, and the amount of things that can't go into rendering. Mass burial is another option, but when we mass bury things, we have a concentration of nutrients, and there's no pathogen kill. There's basically liquefaction or mummification, one or the other, of that animal, and then it can either go into the water supply or become a problem. When we mass bury, or just bury individual animals, oftentimes we'll put ag lime down with the animal, and that's fine, but it only sanitizes what it touches. And we're bringing it 6 feet closer to the water table, and I'm not sure that we're all comfortable doing that. Incineration. So we have large incineration, and we have small incineration. Large incineration is the big burners, curtain burners, and things like that. Every time that we've had to implement large burners, air pollution catches up with us, and there's just so much pollution that they end up having to shut those down. There are small incinerators, but oftentimes they don't have the scrubbers on them that they need either, and they can't deal with capacity when we have mass losses. Landfilling is another option, but in many cases, landfilling is not allowed. I know in New York we have a hard time getting any flesh waste into landfills, and even in emergency situations we've had some issues with that. And I think that's the case in a lot of other places. And then there's composting. You can compost any size animal. We composted a 40,000-pound whale, so really any size animal can be composted. We put all these options up because when we have mass casualty, we're going to be using all of these options. We're going to need different things, different tools to solve the problem that we have at hand.
The goals of carcass disposal. Number one, I'd like to see them fulfill regulations, obviously create a positive public perception. Public doesn't like to see dead carcasses just scattered out on a field like the photo that we saw earlier. We'd like to reduce disease transmission, promote environmental sustainability. It'd be great if we had a beneficial byproduct that came out of this instead of just sending those nutrients to a landfill. Something that's economical for the producer, and then something that's actually practical that we're going to see that producer implement on the farm. And in my opinion, composting fulfills all of those goals.